Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here playing Elden Ring, and I'm very excited for today's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC video. I'll be showing you all locations of the 50 Scadutree Fragments. You'll be able to then take these fragments to a site of grace to receive Scadutree Blessings. Using all 50 will get you to Blessing level 20, each level adding 5% damage and 5% damage negation to your stats while you play in the DLC area, allowing you to basically double your damage and double the amount of damage you can take. Now, you don't have to do these in the order that I show you. The game is an open world game and there are lots of different ways to go. The first and easiest one you'll get is if you go eastward from the Gravesite Plains, down the path which then ends at the Church of Consolation. Head inside to find 2 fragments. For the majority of this video, I'll be showing where the closest site of grace is to the location we're going. Now we are at the Scorched ruins, not far from the beginning, and then we're heading directly to the east. Here you'll find a little bit of a graveyard with a bunch of enemies, and one of the shadow people will have a pot on their head. Take them out before they destroy the pot in order to loot a Scadutree fragment from them. If they throw the pot and it breaks, just go to the site of grace, rest, and try again. The third site of grace you'll likely find during your playthrough is the 3-path cross site of grace. Here you'll find your first Miquella's cross, and almost every single one in the game has a Scadutree fragment nearby, so make sure you grab it before you move on. From the 3-path cross, you can then begin heading to the west. Follow the path underneath the cliff above, and as you exit out in front of you, you'll be in front of the Belurat Tower settlement. Here you'll find the main gate cross site of grace, and again, you'll find another Scadutree fragment. You can then head into Belurat Tower, proceed to the first site of grace, which is the Belurat Tower settlement, and then make it to the second one, the small private altar. You'll find these if you're making progress through the game, otherwise you're just lost and running in circles. You really can't miss them. But from them, you can find another Miquella's cross inside of the Belurat Tower settlement. I'll show you exactly how to get there if you follow my path, but it is kind of along the main path up until you go up this ladder. After you climb up the ladder, you'll go through the door in front of you and up the stairs to the right. To make more story progress, you would turn right again, but we're going to turn left and go downhill. You'll find ruins on your right-hand side, hop over the ruins, and then through the door on the other side of them, entering and probably getting attacked by a fly. After this, though, you should be able to run to the end of the room to find the cross with a Scadutree fragment. Now, if you head back to the front entrance of Belurat Tower and you get back to the main gate cross, as you're coming downhill, you can rub up on the right-hand side to climb up the mountain and end up at Cliffroad Terminus. From this new site of grace, which is on top of the mountains, you'll be able to ride the path to the right-hand side. This path should end up at a cemetery with another shadow enemy that's carrying a pot. Inside of that pot, another Scadutree fragment. Again, if it breaks, go to the site of grace, rinse and repeat. Return to the 3-path cross site of grace. This time head northeast to the Ellac Greatbridge. As you cross the Greatbridge, directly in front of you, you'll find the castle front site of grace. And as you're approaching, on the right-hand side, you'll also be able to find a statue. Next to this statue, you can find the Scadutree fragment. Pick it up. From the castle front, you can then head to the southeast. I'll show you with my marker exactly where we're headed. Follow the path, and at a certain point, you'll be able to take a small detour off the path to the left. At the end of this dead end, you'll be able to find a site of grace called the Pillar Path Cross, and here you'll find a Miquella cross, or a Miquella cross, always say that wrong, and then you'll be able to pick up the Scadutree fragment. From the castle front, you'll want to actually go into the castle. As you work your way through the castle, you'll make it to the Castle Ennis checkpoint site of grace. Here you'll find a Miquella cross and a Scadutree fragment. Don't forget to actually visit the site of grace and use these to get your buffs. At this point, you'll want to try to beat Rolana to exit the castle at the Highroad Cross Site of Grace on the other side of the castle. At the Site of Grace, you'll be able to find another Scadutree Fragment. Alternatively, you can start to head towards the Cerulean coast. I think that area is much more difficult, but if you're desperate, I'm going to show that a little bit later on in the video. Now, from the Highroad Cross, you can also just head directly north, following the main path. You'll end up at a settlement, and there will be a large cauldron enemy in front of us. In this settlement, as you enter on the right-hand side, you should be able to spot a statue. At the foot of the statue, there should be a Scadutree Fragment. Excuse me for not having it on my gameplay. I picked it up while I wasn't recording. From this settlement, you can then start to head west, as I marked on the map at the beginning of this clip. At the very end of the western area, you'll be able to find the Church of the Crusade. In here can be a somewhat difficult invader, depending on how leveled you are and what kind of weapons you have, but at the end of this church, you can find more Scadutree Fragments. Again, you won't see them in the gameplay, but trust me, they're here.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Messmer's flame.
Now, from the Highroad Cross Site of Grace, if you head directly east, you'll find the Moorth ruins. Here, you'll be able to find a new Site of Grace if it's your first time here, a Miquella Cross, and you'll also find a very easy to get Scadutree Fragment. I'll bring up the map again, even though we haven't moved, starting again at the Moorth ruins. Go directly to the east, just across the path. There's a small settlement very close by. It only has 3 buildings, but it also has 3 somewhat powerful enemies. Inside of this settlement, though, you'll be able to find a statue. At the foot of that statue, you can loot the Scadutree Fragment and then immediately leave. Headed right back across the street, back to the Moorth ruins, there's like 4 different Scadutree Fragments nearby. Just across this little town, which is the actual Moorth ruins themselves, I showed you where you can mark on the map if you want an exact location, but basically you're just heading southeast, making sure you stay above ground. On the edge of one of the holes in the ground, you'll be able to find a shadow pot enemy. Take them out to find the Scadutree Fragment they're carrying. If the pot breaks, you'll have to repeat this process from the Site of Grace. We're headed right back to the Moorth ruins Site of Grace. This time we're headed in a slightly different direction. You want to be going basically directly north. And as you're going directly north, you'll find the opening of a cave in the side of a cliff. There'll be some worms here near a lake, and right as you enter this cave, there's a statue right in front of you, and at the foot of that statue, a collectible you cannot miss if you are looking for it. Another one starting from the Moorth ruins. This time we're headed south. At the end of the path, there will be a vent that you can't use. If you go over to the edge of the cliff, you'll be able to get off your horse, activate a rock pile, and then the wind channel will pick you up and take you to the very top of this cliff top. From this cliff top, you'll be able to just ride forward, finding the Scaduview Cross Site of Grace. Here, there is a Miquella Cross, and here you'll be able to find another Scadutree Fragment. So make sure you pick it up and activate the Site of Grace as well. Now, for the next few Scadutree Fragments, we're going to be at the Cerulean coast, and I would highly recommend finding my map fragments video if you want to figure out how to get to this area of the game and how to activate the map fragment so that you can actually see where you're going. We're going to start at the Cerulean coast west Site of Grace, and from here, what we can do is basically just run a little bit east and then north underneath some cliffs as we wrap around the edge to the left, and keep an eye out on the right, just past some worms. You should find a small cave opening. Inside of that cave opening, you should be able to find your Scadutree Fragment. For the next one, we can find it at a Site of Grace called the Cerulean Coast Cross. It's located near the southern tip, not all the way to the south, as there is a path that goes even further south, but I showed you exactly where on the map you can find it, as long as you're in the area. Just head here on horseback, grab it, activate the Site of Grace, and move on. For the next one, we'll start at the Cerulean Coast Cross. We'll head even further south, entering the fissure from the west, activating the fissure site of grace inside, going deeper to find the stone coffin fissure, and then very simply you'll find the fissure cross. Here you'll find your next fragment. That might have looked really complicated, but it's a pretty straightforward path. For the next one, you'll be required to go through the Dragon's Pit dungeon, and at the end of that dungeon, you'll end up at the Jagged Peak. You'll need the Southern Shore map fragment if you want to be able to see what's going on here. And as you progress through the Jagged Peak area, you'll be able to get to the foot of the Jagged Peak. There may be a couple of dragons here, so watch out for those, but progress is progress. Here you'll be able to ride eastward past one dragon. You can ignore them if you want, or fight them if you want to make progress in the dragon form questline. I have a separate video for that. But if you then ride your wind tunnels all the way up to the top, you'll come into a cave here, and as you come into this cave, rocks will start falling towards you to try to crush you. You do want to dodge them, and at the top of this rock falling section, you'll find another fragment. You'll want to pick that up, and just around the corner is your next dragon fight. For this next one, pay attention to the name of this site of grace. It's Charo's Hidden Grave. I think the easiest way to get here is through Jagged Peak, which you need to access through the Dragon's Pit dungeon. Then head south to activate the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion. And staying on top of the mountains in the Cerulean coast, you can activate this site of grace. Then from this site of grace, you can basically just continue heading westward. And at the end of this path west, you'll be able to find a optional Hippo boss fight. It's pretty easy though, especially if you've been following the video and leveling your character. And once you take out this Hippo, it will drop some more fragments for us. Once you're ready, you can start heading to the main gate of the Shadow Keep. And here you'll fight the Golden Hippo main boss. Unfortunately, I don't have gameplay of it, but it is right here, and after you defeat it, it will give you 2 Scadutree Fragments. You can also find another one nearby from the same area we just started in. From that Storehouse first floor, let's go ahead and get to the 4th floor site of grace. At the 4th floor site of grace, you'll also be able to find a Mickle Cross, and at that Mickle Cross, you'll be able to find more Scadutree Fragments. The easiest way to do this is just to basically sprint through all of the enemies and keep looking for staircases that will lead your way up. However, to get from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor, you will need to navigate across the hanging statue in the middle of the room, and that's when you should arrive to our destination. For the next one, we're starting at the Temple Town Ruins, and you'll want the Rauh base map fragment to actually see what's going on here. Again, I'll show that in another video. But the best thing to do is to get to the Ancient Ruins base, which is down low in the deepest parts of the map. And here you can follow along to grab the map fragment. Not far from the map fragment is the Temple Town Ruins site of grace. And then we'll actually go into the Temple Town Ruins to grab the fragment. What you'll want to do is just navigate to the back of the temple. Here, you'll want to probably get off of horseback in order to find a small shortcut leading into the temple through the back. You can then head up the stairs and over this little bridge, and we'll have to get on top of this bridge. So drop down. You'll need to double jump up onto the ledge right nearby. Get off of Torrent here again, and just grab it while on foot. Again, the game is open, so you don't have to do these in order, but I think a lot of people will naturally come to the Viaduct Minor Tower next, because it's not that far after defeating that Golden Hippo boss. From this site of grace, you can navigate down all of these ledges in order to find a lake, kind of basically south of where we're starting. Be careful, though, if you fall too far, you will unfortunately not make it, so just make sure you are platforming your way down correctly. Once you do reach this lake, though, you will find a Hippo mini-boss, and defeating that Hippo mini-boss allows us to then unlock more fragments. Again, make sure you go and equip these things to actually get the blessings and the power-ups. Through natural progression of the main story quest, you will end up at the Ancient Ruins East Site of Grace. It's a little bit complicated to get here, but you have to get here if you're making progress in the game. It's not an area you can skip per se. As you reach this Site of Grace, make sure you activate it and grab the Scadutree Fragment while you're here. For the next one, I am going to use the Ancient Ruins East Site of Grace as our waypoint, but we are going to back travel a little bit, but it's a lot more simple to get this next one from here than it is from where you enter this area. So we're going to backtrack a little bit here. We're basically headed northwest back into the kind of temple. And you'll end up going underneath these little archways, and you have to do that in order to get here. And on your way back, you'll notice that there is a wind channel that can take you up. You do not want to ride the first available wind channel that is closest to you, as this will take you to a room that is a lot more complicated to connect to where we're actually going. Instead, pass by that wind tunnel and head deeper, and you'll see a second wind tunnel at the end of the pathway. At this point, you'll want to jump up, and you should basically land on a shadow pot enemy. Make sure you take them out before the pot breaks, and they will drop a Scadutree Fragment. Again, if it breaks, rest at the Site of Grace and try again. We're making even more progress along one of the story paths here and ending up at the Rauh Ancient Ruins West Site of Grace. From here, we can hop on Torrent and then head up the stairs pretty much directly in front of us to the west. Watch out for the bouncing red ball down the stairs. That'll probably end a couple of no-hit runs. It looks pretty random to me. At the top here, you'll notice a shadow pot enemy on the right. I believe we can ignore him. He does drop something, but nothing important. At the end of the room, though, you should be able to find your Scadutree Fragment, though, just on the ground. Now, you may not know how to get to the next location I'm showing, which is the Recluses River Downstream Site of Grace. If you don't know how to get here, again, please go follow my Map Fragments guide. It'll show you how to get all of these locations on the way. Once you spawn here, turn a little bit around, and we're going to actually head northeast-ish along the cliffside, and you'll see a small little kind of graveyard town chilling out across the cliff. We're going to go towards this, and then we're going to start jumping down the cliff, and we're only going to go about halfway down. You can go all the way down. There's more stuff down there, but we only want to go halfway down for the fragment itself. So grab that fragment, and then you'll end up halfway up the waterfall, and here just run to the end of the waterfall. There will be some flower enemies and a flower kind of mini boss, and here just behind all of these enemies at the very end of the area, basically at the foot of the waterfall where all good secrets are, you'll find the fragment. We're headed back to where we just started from, the Recluses River Downstream. And from this Site of Grace, what we want to do is navigate down the tombstone rocks that are sticking out of the side of the cliff. This will let you get down a little bit further. From here, you can go down even further, end up at the Darklight Catacombs, which leads to the Abyssal Woods. You would know that if you've been following the Map Fragment guide, which I've mentioned a couple times now. We're not headed to the Abyssal Woods just yet, though. As you reach the bottom here, you'll end up touching the water, and here you can run directly east. To the east, there will be 2 lakes. In each lake, there is a Hippo mini-boss. The first Hippo mini-boss here will reward a Scadutree Fragment. After defeating it, you'll also be able to head even a little bit further east, find that second Hippo, and grab it again for 2 Scadutree Fragments. You can even spawn a Mimic Tier to make this fight really easy, although it's pretty easy to begin with. The next few are in the Abyssal Woods. So to get to the Abyssal Woods, you'll have to go through the Darklight Catacombs, which leads to the Forsaken Graveyard, which leads to the Woodland Trail. From the Woodland Trail, you can find the church ruins, At the church ruins is where the map fragment is. This is a very long and dangerous path to get here, though. But inside of the church, you can find a Site of Grace as well as a fragment. So make sure you pick up that Scadutree Fragment. I think now you should easily be well over Blessing plus 10. Additionally, in the Abyssal Woods, if from the Woodland Trail you go to the west, you'll find the Abyssal Woods Site of Grace, aptly named. And here you can basically just head directly north. There'll be like a cliff on your left and a cliff on your right. Just head straight through the middle of them. And as you come through, hook around a little bit to your left. And at the foot of a tree here, you'll be able to find one more. These next few do get pretty complicated, but I'll try to explain them very well for you. You can start off at the Moorth ruins, head down into them, and you'll end up at the Bonnie Village. From Bonnie Village, you can head eastward, follow the path to the bridge leading to the village, then north to the Church District Highroad, and then you can loop around to the backside of the castle here, ending up at the Church District entrance. This kind of leads to a secret back area of the Storehouse that leads to some very secret areas we'll talk about in a second. But along the path, before you reach like your next Site of Grace, you will have to find one collectible. There are a couple of jumps here, which can be a little bit tricky if you're a heavy build, so it might be worth taking off your armor, and you'll need to make sure you can sprint your way on through. Just follow my path exactly here. You'll be navigating a bunch of different paths and ledges, and make sure you don't touch any of the water as you will instantly die. There are some pretty powerful enemies here depending on how powerful you are. If you've been following this video, you should be pretty powerful already, so they might not pose too much of a threat, but they can stun lock you a little bit, and it can be a little bit tricky. But as you wrap your way around this corner, which I'm showing here, you'll have to make a little bit of a tricky jump and land directly on the hand of this statue in the water to pick up the fragment. If you fall in the water, you have to retry. So at this point of the video, I'm at the Shadow Keep back gate. You may need a video on how to get here, but basically you're going to go from that Church District entrance I just talked about. You'll end up in the Storehouse back section. You'll go all the way up to the top of the Storehouse and then navigate all the way back down. You'll be able to access some new secret areas you weren't able to access in the Storehouse from the front though. And once you make your way down a lift, you'll end up at the back, and this is the Shadow Keep back gate. As soon as you activate the Site of Grace, there is one Scadutree Fragment just next to you here, so you'll be able to grab that at the foot of the statue. But from here, you'll then want to go outside, and there will be a boss battle against Commander Gaius, I believe his name is, and he is, in my opinion, a little bit difficult, but after you defeat him, you should be able to just continue riding down this path, and at the end of the path, you should be able to find the Scadutree Chalice. And here you'll be able to find 5 total fragments. Make sure you pick up all 5 before you leave. You should now have well over 40 of them done. Now, if you end up heading up the Storehouse the normal way, you'll end up at the Storehouse 4th floor and then the Storehouse 7th floor. And as you reach the very top, you'll be able to open a gate in front of you. As you unveil this gate, you should find the Scadutree Fragment directly in front of you. As more reference as to where this is, just around the corner is the Dark Chamber entrance, Site of Grace, and just past the door is the Mesmer boss fight. The next ones are only possible after you've defeated the Mesmer boss battle that'll reward you with Kindling. Then you can go to the Church of the Bud main entrance and defeat Romina, Saint of the Bud. This will allow you to take the Kindling and burn down the tree, and then you'll gain access to Enir-Ilim. You can also enter it from the other side, which is the Belurat Tower settlement, but the first Site of Grace you'll find is Spiral Rise. There's a Mickle across here, and you'll be able to grab a fragment very easily. This next one is a little bit complicated to get to. Let me try my best to explain it. We're going to start at Spiral Rise. We're going to actually head backwards. We're going the direction we came from to get here, but that's because this Site of Grace is a lot closer, and there's a high chance of dying on this path, so at least you're going to have a checkpoint that's not too far. Head down the ramp and keep on your left-hand side. You'll find a little bit of a hidden staircase. We'll take that staircase, and then you'll be able to find a ledge, and you can drop off of that ledge onto a staircase. Go to the top of the staircase, and here you'll be able to drop down another ledge, and another ledge, and another ledge. You have to drop down these ledges sequentially, or else you'll take too much fall damage and you won't make it. This jump can also be a little bit difficult, and there are things to loot on the way, so feel free to grab them if you want. That's how you know you're supposed to go this way. Then you can just continue dropping down. You don't have to do a huge leap like I did. I risked a little more fall damage than I should have, and continue dropping down onto yet another staircase. Go down the stairs this time instead of going up, and then do a sprinting jump as if you're going off a diving board into this window. If you do make it, you'll land, you're in Belurat Tower Settlement, and you are at an altar, and at this altar you can find your next fragment. We are now in the home stretch. Now, also from the Spiral Rise, we are in a decently straight shot to our final 2 fragments. This time we're headed up towards the very top. You'll start by heading up the stairs, and after doing a couple of turns, you can jump out the window to end up on the rooftops. Watch out for some enemies here, as they can hit you, and they hit pretty hard, especially if 2 or 3 of them are aggroing you at the same time. Run across the rooftops, and as you make your way to another set of stairs, you can hook around to the left to find a hidden room. Inside of this room is a revered spear dash. It's not the reason we're here, but pick it up and we're on our way. From that spear dash, let's continue heading up the stairs and to the next staircase, watching out for enemies, taking them out if we want, or skipping them. Head up the stairs and continue going further until you reach the next rooftop, hooking around to your right to find a hidden room with our fragment, number 49. Now from here, we're another straight shot to the Cleansing Chamber Anteroom. That is a Site of Grace and an important area in the game if you're trying to complete everything. And to get here, you'll navigate across these rooftops, head back into that spiral staircase in the building. There will be a lift as you enter, but what we're trying to do is just head up the stairs to get to the very top. There will be an enemy here that can be pretty strong. They use a wind element to kind of move you around, knock you around and stuff. But honestly, you can just spawn a Mimic Tear as a distraction if you want. Or if you have like Blessing number 19, you should be able to just tank the damage through, dodge roll, and then heal up once you make it. Get to the very, very top of the stairs. Watch out, the enemy will chase you all the way into this room. Feel free to activate the Site of Grace, which is called the Cleansing Chamber Anteroom. And in this room, you can also find fragment number 50. Congratulations, you can turn those in for Blessing plus 20, 100% extra damage and damage negation. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it was clear and concise and helped you on the way. Please leave a like and share the video with a friend. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. I'll see you next time. Peace.